Hi Homeworthy, I'm Genevieve. Welcome to my home in the English countryside. I'm so happy you're here. Come on in.
Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, my name is Genevieve Harris. Welcome to my 600-year-old house. You're sitting with me here in the lounge. We're nestled in the English countryside in the Kent East Sussex border. Well, I was originally from Canada, born and raised, and when I was 20, I decided I just wanted to change. I wanted to study fashion, and I ended up moving to London, where I lived for 10 years. I loved it there. I met my husband there, but when we were ready to have children, we just wanted somewhere a little bit where we could have more space, and we were looking to buy a house, and it was this sort of East Sussex countryside that we loved. It's near the coast. It's just a beautiful, beautiful part of England, and yeah, and we're still only about an hour away from London, so it's quite accessible for that. Do you know, it's really funny because I was actually away visiting my mum and dad in Canada, and I was looking for a house. We were ready to buy somewhere, and I saw this house come up. And the minute I saw it, I phoned my husband and said, "You need to go and see it." I knew, even without being here, I knew we had to have it. I just loved it. And my husband went and saw it, and he phoned me and he said, I think it's the right one. I flew home a week later, I saw it, and we put an offer in on the house, and it was instant love at first sight, absolutely. So we've been here 6 years. We were ready for a project. I love houses that need a bit of attention. This one was off the chart. It needed so much help. It was literally falling down. It had been in the same ownership for about 60 years. The lady that lived here was given it as a wedding present, so it had been in the family for quite a few generations. It was really neglected. There were parts of the timber frame that were rotted. We really had to strip it back and rebuild it, essentially. Rumor, folklore was that King Henry VIII stayed here, which I think is incredible. Of course, going back that far, there's not always sort of, exact details, but a lot of the neighbors had said that this is, one of the places that he had stayed, which just boggles my mind. I can't believe, it kind of reminds you how old this house is, so yeah. Welcome to our drawing room. This is the biggest room of the house. It's the room that you enter when you come through the front door. We believe that originally it was 2 rooms. So you can see by the pattern of the brick floor, there was probably a wall here. When we moved in, it was 1 big room, and we kind of use it as 2 separate spaces. I'll show you what we did. There's 2 fireplaces on either side of the room. This one we put in ourselves. So this log burner here, we put in ourselves, there was evidence that there used to be an old chimney here. So we put the log burner in, we added the antique Delft tiles, and my husband built the wooden surround here. So that's kind of the area where we sit of an evening. We've got a teeny tiny hidden TV, which I'm not going to show you, it's quite horrible. And we sit here, watch TV, cozy up by the fire, and this is our kind of family evening kind of space of the room. As you kind of progress further, there's this incredible big inglenook fireplace, which was one of the features when I saw the house that I just instantly fell in love with. These are called inglenooks. They're quite unique to this kind of house. It's a Wealden Hall house, it's called. And many of them have these great big open fireplaces. We added the log burner just for heat because it's quite a big room. It puts out a lot of heat, which it needs. This is kind of more of the space here when we've got Christmas and we've got friends around. We tend to kind of gather around here, have all the food out and drinks, and kind of it's the more social kind of when we're entertaining. This is more of the space when we've got the fire going. In terms of decorating the room, there was literally nothing in here, no colors. We had to redo all of the beams. They were originally very dark. They were kind of painted black, which was really kind of oppressive, and it kind of felt quite enclosed. So we found evidence that actually these beams were at some point in history lime washed. So lime washing is a kind of way of preserving beams that they used to do back a couple hundred years ago. So we lime wash them, and it kind of lifts, I think, the whole room and kind of makes it a lot lighter, a lot kind of brighter. And then what else did we do? We added a bit of color. So I found that in this room, it was kind of, I knew I wanted to add color, but I didn't want to kind of compete with the beautiful beams and the kind of whole aesthetic of the room. So what I did was I decided to add this beautiful green in all of the woodwork. So around the windows, on the doors, and around the fireplace. And I think it's it's a really lovely green. It's Edward Bulmer Invisible Green. And it's the whole idea of the color is to kind of bring the outside nature into the house. And I find it actually really, really easy to incorporate into textiles. So the curtains are Nina Campbell. We found these at an antique shop. A lot of the furniture we've got is antique. As you can tell, I've got a huge kind of passion for antiques and thrifting and that kind of thing. This coffee table is one of my favorite antiques. And it's quite funny actually, because I bought this coffee table before we owned the house. When I first saw the house, before we even exchanged and bought it, I knew that this coffee table belonged in this room because it's such a great long size. It's basically an old refectory table, it's probably 17th century, that had been cut down, and it's got really beautiful oak carvings on it. We found it at an antique shop in Lewis, and it's great because, you know, when we're entertaining, we can put all the food out on it. I've always got books, all sorts on it, and it's a great games table as well when we're doing Monopoly and everything. So it's a real kind of, I think, quite a good focal point of the room. So I love pattern and textiles, and I am an absolute sucker for a chair. I love an armchair. As you can tell, we've got a lot of chairs, too many chairs actually. I have to kind of stop myself when I see one. And I don't mind kind of mismatching patterns. So a chintz kind of floral chair, it's just my favorite thing. We found both of these ones at antique shops. We're really lucky where we live. This part of England, we're absolutely spoilt for antiques. And I just love the pattern with them. And the kind of greens and pinks is a kind of color combination that I just absolutely love. So I've got the chairs. Hops. Now I get asked so much. So many people say, what are those things dried over the inglenook? And they're hops. So they're what, you know, you dry to make beers, to make beer. This area of East Sussex is really unique to growing hops. Back in, 150 years ago, a lot of people would come down from London and pick hops, and that was a kind of a thing to do around here. And the back of our property actually used to be a hop garden, which was, you can still see sometimes they come up and you can see the hop vines. So basically these are the flowers, and we can get it at the local farm shop. You can buy them, they dry them, and they just sit sit up there, and I just think they're really quite special, and they're really unique to kind of the area. So that's my hops. I love knickknacks. I can buy them. I have too many knickknacks. It's an obsession of mine, and I love kind of combining them. I think that's in a home what makes it totally unique to you. So these ones here, I've got a kind of mixture. I've got lots of, I really like the old Staffordshire. Oh, I'll show you the Staffordshire kind of figurines. This one, was this the gin? Oh yeah, this one's quite naughty actually. My husband bought this for me, and it says gin and water, and the man that is having the gin looks a little bit kind of wobbly, and the one that's water looks very healthy and happy. And my husband bought it for me because I like a gin and tonic from time to time. So that one was quite funny. And I've got mockaware, which is beautiful. I love to collect mockaware. This one here I found at a car boot sale, and it's incredible. However, it's in a million pieces and has been glued back together, but it doesn't matter because it looks nice. And it's pretty. What else? Yeah, lots of kind of Staffordshire pearlware. It's kind of all in the mix, and then a few kind of modern ones from Pentreath and Hall, Bridie Hall. The crown above the fireplace, I'll attempt to show you. It's quite heavy. There we go. So we got this in London. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. I didn't know where it came from. And I actually asked on my account some people saying sort of, what do you think it is? The consensus is we think that it was probably on top of the pole for the coronation, because this crown is a replica of the one that Queen Elizabeth wore. So I think it was a kind of coronation type celebration thing for in the town. It weighs a ton. I don't know really what the purpose here in the house is other than to just look cool. So we put it above the fireplace. So there are lots of challenges when you're dealing with a 600-year-old building. It has to be, all of the repairs and all of the work done to it have to be done really sensitively, and they have to be done by people that really understand the fabric of a building like this. Before we could start working on it, we had to get a lot of permission and sign-offs from the council because it's Grade 2 listed. It was incredible. I mean, the people that we had, we were very lucky. We had a team of people working on it that had worked on a lot of National Trust houses, and they really knew what needed to be done, how this building was made. And there was a lot of sort of big decisions before we could even start doing it. It took maybe 18 months before we could even start working on it. So there was a lot of consideration and time put in before the work started. I would say the biggest challenge for us was the fabric of the building is all timber framed essentially. So the oldest part of the house, the main bit of the house, is all made from an oak frame with infill of daub, which is sort of mud essentially, 600 years old. All of that had to come off before we could see what had to be done to it. And unfortunately, some of the oak beams, some of the main front oak beams had rotted, so they had to be replaced. They were, the whole front of the house was essentially opened up, so we didn't have any windows. And I remember there was one Christmas where we had literally tarps over the windows, and we had the little Christmas trees still, and we just sort of, I tried to make it as kind of normal as possible for the kids, but it was chilly. It was chilly. We had no windows for a good sort of 6 months in the house. So I'm going to take you over to the other side of the room. We've got this beautiful antique baby grand piano. I knew I wanted an antique piano because I grew up playing the piano. In Canada, I started when I was 4, and I missed having one. When we were speaking to actually one of the ladies that used to look after the lady before us that lived here, and she told us that there was always a grand piano here, a baby grand piano here. So that was it for me. I just thought, yeah, we do need to get one here. So I do play it. It's terribly out of key at the moment because it's in a window, and it does sound a little bit kind of off, but it looks beautiful, and once it's kind of tuned up, it's quite nice to kind of play some Christmas carols and kind of be jolly in here. So when we finished doing all the kind of structural work in this room, it was completely bare and there was nothing in it. We had all of our furniture in storage, and it kind of took us a few months to sort of think, how are we going to design it? And for me, the way I kind of work with interiors is it's quite organic and it happens quite slowly. I think if I make a plan, a grand plan for a room, it never kind of is exactly the way I want it. So it's kind of a process of addition and buying things and moving things around until it's right. Because with this room, it's quite large. With the two fireplaces, we tend to kind of put all of the seats near the fireplace. So we've got, you know, the two little seats here, the quite cozy antique armchair. Sit here, you get the heat of the fireplace. The kids tend to sit here. These are all antique ones. This is actually a new one, George Smith, and this is Oka. Brick floor is one of the features that I just love about this room because it kind of adds a real sort of warmth to it. But it is quite cold on your feet. So we've done a kind of, you'll see in the rest of the house, there's a real patchwork of antique carpets. I love antique carpets. I don't overthink whether they go or match or any of that, which you might be able to tell. It's a little bit eclectic, the kind of color scheme in the house. But I think I don't know, I think it's quite relaxed and I think it adds a bit of character and it's obviously warms up the room a little bit with all the different carpets. This dog bag, we've got Bear, the yellow Labrador, who's ridiculous. She's very bouncy and very excited and I will bring her out at some point to meet you. But I have one rule, she is not allowed up on the sofas at all because she sheds a lot. And so I found this dog bed. I've been looking for ages for dog beds and I find that a lot of the time they're not particularly attractive. This one I found at a car boot sale in the middle of a field on a Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. And I just thought it was really, really sweet. I love wicker. I think it really kind of adds a little bit of warmth to a room. And it's big enough that it fits here. I've been, this is William Morris, the little dog insert in it. So she feels quite posh when she gets into her fancy dog bed. This painting is, I have to say, my favorite painting in the whole house. We've got, my husband loves artwork, as do I. However, he bought this painting without me knowing, which is always a little bit risky. But when it arrived, I was just blown away by it. It's called The Serbian Dresses, and it's by an English artist, Jean Inglis, her name is, and we think it's around 1945, around there. We found it at an auction. I just absolutely adore it. I love the colors in it. I love their expressions. Everything about it, whenever someone sees it, they're sort of drawn to it. It's just got a really lovely feel to it. And of course, I just love the beautiful dresses that they're wearing. It's just so pretty. I think it was really, really important for us to maintain the kind of historical aspect of the house, and to maintain a lot of the kind of original features. Houses like this are rare, and they don't, you know, I think when things are done to them to modernize them, you can't put them back when things are taken away. So we really, really wanted the house to kind of to be as sensitive as we could be with the restoration. And I'm really kind of careful to say it wasn't a renovation, it was a restoration. So we really wanted, instead of changing it, we wanted to put back and as much as we could into the house the way it was originally built. We wanted to kind of maintain the kind of authenticity of the house. I think my personal style for interiors, it really changes according to what house I'm in. With this house, it was quite simple, I think, in lots of ways to kind of decorate, because it kind of just dictated how it should be. It's got kind of a really strong look anyway, with the beams, exposed beams, the Inglenook fireplaces, exposed bricks. So I didn't really want to compete with that very much. I didn't want the interiors to kind of overpower the kind of the look of and the character of the rooms inside. With the kitchen, we had to completely rebuild the kitchen. There literally was no kitchen. So I really did want to create something that looked like quite timeless really. It looked like it could have been there in the 50s, or it could have been there, you know, in the 80s, and just quite authentic and natural. So I've tried to kind of make it look as kind of comfortable and authentic as possible, while still putting a bit of our character into it, which I think you can do with you know, with the soft furnishings and curtains, things like that. You can put your own kind of mark on it. So next door is the dining room. I'd love to show you. Come and follow me. Okay, welcome to my dining room. This is again in the oldest part of the house. So it was built around 1420, very, very old indeed. This is where we have our kind of more formal dinners. We'll have Christmas dinner, Easter, all of that. It's very cozy. The first thing we did was put in this beautiful big log burner that puts out lots of heat into the room. Again, you've got a slightly smaller ingle nook here, but it's quite the kind of focal point of the room. I've got my Delft plate that we found at an antique shop, and this old antique sword that my husband insisted on putting up. The lights in this room I wanted to keep quite gentle, and I didn't want them to be too harsh. And these scallop shell sconces I think really do the trick. They're real scallop shells. They're brass kind of sconces, and they kind of give the illusion of candlelight, which I really love, because it's quite a kind of cozy dark room. We've got the refectory table here that seats 6 to 8 comfortably, but I like to squeeze people in. I think kind of the cozier the better. It gets lovely and warm, and it's just a really lovely place to kind of have a big feast. With the artwork in this room, so this is actually a really special painting of ours. It's of Frank Gresley, who is my husband's great-great-grandfather, and it's painted by Harold Gresley, his son. And funnily enough, he found it on eBay by searching them. They were actually painters mostly on pottery, but his son did a lot of portrait paintings, and so we were really, really lucky we had it refurbished and framed. So he sort of takes pride of place here, looks over us when we're having our feasts, and I think he's just got a really lovely, kind face. Again, as you can see, we love our china. This is old Japanese amari. And then we've got the bowls here as well. We tend to kind of collect things when we go to markets, antiques centres, all of that. It's very hard to say no when you see these beautiful things. We're getting to the point where we might have a little bit too much. The kind of space on all the furniture is starting to get filled up a little bit. But yeah, this is a beautiful kind of 17th century oak side table. It's great for all of the linens, all of the cutlery, that kind of thing. My husband's humidor for his cigars that he brings out at Christmas time. What else have we got? So most of the furniture is oak and antique in this room. I think it just suited it really, really well because of the oak beams. We didn't lime wash these ones. We were lucky they hadn't been painted. They just had a really lovely oak patina, so we left them as they were, and it does kind of make it a lot more cozy, a lot more kind of, to me, I think it's a real winter room. At Christmas time, it's just so special in here. I just put out a few bits here just to show you. I love setting tables. I love kind of going to town, putting things from the garden, foliage, that kind of thing. I really love these cabbageware, which is great. They're by Bordallo, and the thing I love about them actually is that they're not particularly precious. You can put them in the dishwasher. They're easy to use, and they're just great kind of everyday dishes. So this is actually, this massive blue and white jug is I found at a car boot sale for £10, just the best find ever. And I think what it was part of a wash basin, so a jug and wash basin. Before they had toilets next to the bedrooms, they would give you a big bowl and a water jug to wash up in. So unfortunately, I don't think the bowl survived with it, but I've got this beautiful willow pattern jug. Well, I would like to think that dinner parties at our house are fun. I hope people are relaxed. I just want them to feel welcome. I love to cook. That being said, I don't tend to do lots of courses and things that are super, super fancy. I like to just put things out. People can help themselves, lots of sharing platters, things like that. There's usually lots of music on, lots of wine, and I hope that it's all, you know, it's usually a really good night. One of the features I love about this room is the view. So when you stand here, you can look outside. There's a beautiful big pond. We've got ducks, and you can often see them sort of swimming around on the pond. And it's just a lovely, because the windows are quite low, you can just sort of stand here and gaze out. So I think it's the view from this room I really, really love. My particular style, in terms, if you compare all of the houses I've lived in, they've all been quite different. But I suppose the one common thread would be that I do love colour, and I like to introduce it in kind of unexpected ways. With this house, it was interesting because there was lots of beams on the walls and things like that. I had to, instead of sort of overpowering it, I added colour on the woodwork and on the windows and with textiles and things like that. I think it has to sort of have a bit of a sense of humour as well, a house. I don't like houses that are too stuffy, that are too kind of too serious, taking themselves a bit seriously. I want people to be relaxed, and I like having a bit of humour to the house, yeah. What do I love most about this home? I think hands down it has to be the kitchen. It's where I spend most of my time. It's where the kids spend most of their time. I am always cooking in the kitchen. It's got a big Aga, and I've never had one before, and it took me a little while to learn how to use it, but it is truly the heart of the home. It's always on, it's warm, the pets gravitate towards it, and it just creates a really cozy, comfortable vibe in the kitchen. So I would have to say that my favorite part of the house has to be the kitchen. So the next room over is my favorite room. It's the kitchen. Come and follow me. So welcome to my kitchen. It is my favorite room of the house simply because we spend the most time here. The heart of the kitchen has to be the Aga. I absolutely love it. When we first moved in, there was just the one old oil Aga, and then we moved it over and we added an electric companion. The Aga stays on the whole time. It's lovely and warm. Often there's a cat or a dog snuggled up next to it, and people just, when they come into the kitchen, just always naturally kind of gravitate towards it because it is so warm. And I love it. It's great for doing roasts and kind of slow cooking, and it's just my favorite part of the kitchen. The color of the cabinets is Haymarket by Mylands, London. I get asked all the time, and it took us 3 or 4 tries to kind of get the right yellow. Funnily enough, we started off with them being dark green, the cabinets, and it just didn't feel right. It was a little bit too dark, and it just didn't sit well. And we wanted to change the color, and I love the contrast of yellow and blue together. As you can see, I've got lots of blue and white willow pattern in the kitchen, and I love the kind of combination. So I thought I'm going to try and find a yellow. We went through 2 or 3 colors, and then finally we found this yellow, and I love it because it's really, although it's very bright and very kind of cheery, it's not overpowering. I think it's got a lot of character, and it kind of harks back to kind of a 50s look to it, which I wanted the kitchen to kind of feel like. So when we got the house, the kitchen was 1960s. It was in a really bad state. All of the cabinets were kind of falling apart, and there was unfortunately not much we could salvage from them. So it was completely gutted. And we had to design the kitchen from scratch. So to me, the most important thing was to kind of create a space and create a kitchen that looked like it had always been here, that we hadn't just come in and built a new kitchen. So for that to be achieved, we had to put a lot of kind of research into what the proportions of these cabinets would have been like when this kitchen was built. So this kitchen is sort of 1790-ish, and so Georgian. So we looked at lots of kitchens of that era. What did they look like? What was the sort of the shapes of the cabinets? and we kind of sketched it out, and we had a really lovely kind of, two fellas built it for us. Things like the knobs and the latches, things like that, we've all sourced antique and secondhand so that they didn't look too new. They looked, you know, I wanted these things to look like they've always been here, and I think it really, because these are antique, it kind of tricks you into thinking that they have. All of the appliances, we do have a fridge, we do have a dishwasher, but very cheekily, we've covered them up with the cupboards so that when they're not in use, it kind of gives the illusion that you're harking back to older times before the appliances. So as you can see, in most of my rooms, this is no exception. I have lots of knickknacks up on shelves. The majority of this is mockaware that has been found at antique shops and car boot sales. A lot of it has been sourced locally, so it has come from old pubs that were around in this area. People used to actually drink their beer out of these mugs. And I just think the colors, the blues and the peaches are just really cheery. I have to have my Wally dogs. I think they're very sweet. They've got their kind of startled expression and they always look slightly shocked. And yeah, I've got lots of ceramics. That's kind of my favorite thing to kind of add color to a room. These are amazing. So these I found at a reclamation yard. They're bull's heads, and they came off of the side of a butcher's shop that obviously had gone out of business, and we've attached them. We've got two of them attached to either side of the big inglenook. So this table, there's actually a really funny story with this table. When about a week after we moved in, we were starting to decide what we were going to do. We're going to do lots of work to the house. We didn't have a kitchen table, and we'd ordered a wardrobe upstairs in one of the bedrooms from an antique dealer, and they came to deliver it. And I was chatting to the lady, and I made her a cup of tea, and she said, "You haven't got a kitchen table?" And she said, "Would you like a kitchen table?" I said, "Yeah, well, I guess so." And she just brought this out from the back of her van and said, "Here, you can have this kitchen table." So it was very, very generous of her. She was lovely, and we've never kind of wanted to change it. It just works. It's really wobbly. It's not completely flat, but I think it kind of is the perfect size. And the fact that it's round means that everyone can kind of sit next to each other and see each other. And it's just really charming. I think it works really, really well in the space. I found this at a car boot sale, and it's actually a candelabra, so it's not electric. I light the candles when we have friends round. It kind of really creates a kind of cozy atmosphere, and I love candles. I just think there's nothing like candlelight when you're entertaining. It's a must for me, and it was great. The only thing was, it was when we first got it, it was a little bit higher, and I actually ended up burning the top of our beam. So hence us getting a thing. My husband told me off, and we had to add this to it. So it's not so much of a fire hazard anymore. I think since we've moved here over the last 6 years, I have perfected the roast dinner on Sundays. It, to me, is just a given. On Sundays, we always have my family round and sometimes friends, and we will always do a big roast dinner, roast chicken or roast lamb, roast beef, and this aga is just the perfect thing to cook roast potatoes in. I do a mean Yorkshire pudding as well. But yeah, roast dinner is always on a Sunday, and I think that, to me, is my favorite thing to cook. Like all of the rooms, the things that we've put up on the walls, the kind of bits and bobs all around the house have been a very kind of, it's an eclectic mix. It's things that we found from around this area. This one here is a old sign from a little convenience shop that was in this area that had gone out of business. And it's a little ice lolly sign, and it's all hand painted. It's an original one, not a replica, and it was not expensive, but I just loved the kind of graphics on it, and I loved the color that it had, and I thought just perfect for the kitchen, because the kids like ice lollies. And one more thing I have to show you that again goes back to that idea of I love having a bit of a cheeky sense of humor in the house, and this one is the perfect item to show you that does have a cheeky sense of humor. I have no idea what it is. I know it's a spoon, a massive wooden spoon, and I don't know what it was for. If it was indeed for anything, it might just have been for aesthetic, kind of for houses where people thought they had to have a massive spoon. I don't know. So a common theme, as you're probably starting to see, is I do like bits and bobs, knickknacks, all of that. And because we have so many of them, we've had to add shelves to kind of home all of these things. This antique Delft rack my husband got from an antique shop, and it's just the perfect kind of size to display these old Amore plates and blue and white plates. And I love blue and white. I desperately try to keep it monochrome so it is just blue and white. But then my husband will come home and just plop something on it that doesn't match, which drives me mad. But that's the way it is. Yeah, and I've got all sorts, kind of old little antique eggs, little birds' eggs, things like that. It is very eclectic. A little bit of Victorian naughtiness, lady showing her knee, ooh. Now I'm going to show you the tiniest room in the house. I think it's very sweet and a little bit magical, so I'm going to show you. Come with me. So this is our larder. It is a proper old Victorian larder. It's where I keep all of my kind of jars, preserves, all of the jam. I've just made some marmalade, so I keep all of that in here. We've got some duck eggs that the ducks have laid. We keep Aylesbury ducks, and they lay eggs every day, so we get them. And it's got a beautiful tall ceiling here. I've always got herbs drying, things like that. And we didn't do too much to it. We kind of just kept it the way it was. It's a beautiful space to kind of keep all of your preserves and things like that. So yeah, we kind of wanted it to sort of stay how it was originally built. It is all the overspill. We keep our wines. We've got a wine cellar down below, but it's kind of nice for that kind of thing. And because it's so high, it's a tiny space, but because it's so high, we added lots of antique meat hooks to kind of build upwards. I've got an affinity for wicker. I love a wicker basket. And so, as you can see, my collection of wicker has, it's kind of gotten out of hand, but... So the reason there's no heat in here and the ceilings are really high is because they wanted this room to be very, very cold, because obviously it was at a time where they didn't have refrigerators. So there were meat hooks, and there was actually on the window a metal kind of grill to stop any of the flies coming in. So this was, back in the day, there would have been game hanging from the ceiling, and the meat would have been stored in here, because this was essentially the refrigerator. If I want to open the window, you chuck that and you can open it. This actually was in the house. She'd left it. It's actually quite interesting. This bit of furniture was here when we moved in, and there's a funny story actually. The lady that lived here used to keep her ducks in here, and we had the lovely experience of when we moved in, I had to clean out this room. So it was a treat for the senses when we first moved in. When I was 20 and I moved from Canada to London, I really wanted to work in fashion. And I was very lucky. I got a job at Liberty's in London, and I worked there for 6 years, and it was my favorite job. I loved it. I was a manager there, retail manager, so I managed the menswear and then the ladies' wear and the ground floor. So I really got a sense of what I wanted to do there. And it was interesting because it's such an incredible store in London that they also do interiors as well. And I think working there, although I wanted to be mainly fashion, I did get my first taste of interiors. And they just have such beautiful kind of eclectic things for sale there, and it's set the seed, I suppose, for me, for my love of interiors, working there really. And then as I grew older and we had a house, and then we moved and had another house, my kind of attention did start to shift from fashion into more interiors. And now I with my Instagram account, I kind of talk about and show anything that I'm interested in. So it's not just unique to interiors. I do still do a little bit of fashion, a bit of gardening, a bit of cooking. So I suppose in some way it's a real kind of lifestyle account, my account now. I don't think I would, although I miss Canada, I miss my friends, I miss the scenery there, it's so beautiful. I don't think I would move back now. My mum and dad live here now, most of my family are here, and I think at heart I was a London girl, but now after living in the English countryside, I think we'll probably stay here, yeah. So now we can go upstairs. I can show you the bedrooms and the second floor of the house. Follow me. Okay, so the first bedroom is on the west side of the house. The traditional name for this room is actually called the solar. What's really unique is the windows. The whole front of the house, all of the windows had to come out. They were all rotten. And when we had the historical architect have a look at the house, he found evidence of these really beautiful arrowhead windows. And the council allowed us to put them back in. So at some point they would have been like that. I think they're really, really sweet. They've got just a real kind of charm to them. And I love them. They look out onto the countryside. And the pond, which is always a kind of focal point. The other window that's really interesting in this room was originally just leaded, but again we had to redo it, and they found that they had these mullions in it. So when this house was built, it was before they had glass, so there weren't any actual traditional windows. They would have been more like this with shutters on them, wooden shutters. So you can imagine how cold the house would have been when it was first built. I love this painting. I knew it would really, really go well in this room because the actual the feeling of this room is quite light and quite airy. It's got a high ceiling, and I really wanted a kind of hit of color. And it's an English artist, again, sort of 40s, we think. And it's Harold Riley, and it's of his daughter, which I love. And I think she's just got such great character, and she's got really arresting eyes. I just think it works so beautifully in this room. So this actually is a radiator cover that we found. We found 6 of them at a house clearance, and the radiators that we have in some of the rooms aren't particularly good looking. They're just basic utility kind of radiators, and so this is perfect. It kind of covers it. It looks like a kind of oak piece of furniture. They've got metal kind of grates on it to radiate the heat, and I think it kind of just serves the purpose really well. I love textiles. I love kind of quilts, all of this. This is a Durham quilt, cotton. Found it in an antique shop, and I love the kind of punchy color of it. And these cushions I actually had made. I found this fabric at an antique shop, and I absolutely loved it. It's vintage Sanderson, and I wanted big pillows with big ruffly frills on them. So I went to a seamstress locally and just designed them for her to make the ones with the big ruffles. So I love them. I think they're really punchy colors, and they just add a kind of a bit of flounce to the room. This bed frame is actually a modern one. We've had it a few years, and we just wanted something really simple. It's not antique, but super comfy, and it kind of works. It doesn't really compete with the rest of the room, so it's kind of modeled after a Victorian design. So the rugs in this room, carrying on that theme of a bit of a patchwork, we've got all different types. I love the colors, and I like the mix of the colors. The floorboards are incredible, actually. They're really, really wide oak floorboards, and it's because it's the oldest part of the house. They're original, so they're sort of 450, 500 years old, and they've got the old kind of metal nails in them. They're just really quite impressive, the size of the oak floorboards. So this fireplace is actually, we've just finished it a few months ago. My husband made all of the surround. Previously, it was just exposed brick, and there was no grate or anything in it. It's not a working fireplace, so the chimney's working, but it's not connected to this particular fireplace. But we did it, purely for aesthetic reasons. And the grate, the insert we found at a reclamation yard, and I loved the blue, and I decided to pick up on the blue and do this kind of punchy, really lovely blue. It's Cook's Blue by Farrow & Ball. And again, it's a really good, I think it's a good example of how in an old house, you still can be quite brave, I guess, with your color choices, as long as it kind of all kind of ties in together and doesn't compete too much with the kind of historical references. And I really like how the blue picks up the blue in the sky in the painting. I think what gives a home a soul, the homes that really speak to me, the ones that I love the most, are the ones that the owners, the occupants, have really relaxed and listened to their own kind of identity, and they've created a space that's just really unique to them, as opposed to looking and getting reference from other people's taste. I think you can always get inspired by there's lots of sources, Instagram, magazines, whatever. It's great to get inspiration, but I think there's a real line between crossing over from inspiration and just creating something that is not authentic to you. Some of my, the places, the homes that I've seen can be completely different taste or style to mine, but I find them really comfortable and I love them because it shows that person's, the owner's kind of character. I think those are my favorite houses, yeah. Growing up, my mum and dad are English. They moved to Canada when they were younger, and because they were living in Canada, and I think particularly my mum really missed England, she filled her house with lots of kind of English china and textiles and print that were quite sort of English countryside. And as I was young, I didn't really notice it. But I think you sort of absorb it, and when you get older, you think back to it and you realize why you have a kind of affection to certain things. So I think thinking back, my mum was a big inspiration with her style, and my grandmother was similar. She was English as well. And I think, now in modern day, when I'm on Instagram, some of the accounts and some of the profiles that I really love are ones that are kind of, they're listening to their own character. They're kind of doing their own thing, and kind of breaking the boundaries a little bit. I like people that kind of don't go with the rules sometimes. And those are the kind of accounts that I really like that speak to me. So next, I'd like to show you one of the bathrooms. They're quite special because they're practically untouched since the 60s. So you're in a bit of a time warp when you see them. Follow me. So this is one of the main bathrooms in the house. It is practically untouched since the 60s. It's got the original sink, toilet, bath, heater, all of that. And there's a kind of reason why it is untouched. We did have ideas to update it, to change it. And every time we went and had an idea, we kind of thought, actually, it's really charming the way it is. And if we take it out, you're never going to see it, it'll be gone. And it's a little bit of a snapshot of what bathrooms were like in the 60s. So instead, what we did was kind of give it a little bit of a facelift. So we removed the really, really grotty carpet. It was disgusting. We removed that. I painted all the floorboards. We gave it some new plaster. The windows obviously are new. They're all remade. We lime washed the beams as well to really kind of clean everything up. And then just added a few kind of features to sort of make it a little bit more homely. The thing I love about this room, it's a lovely big bathroom, but I actually wanted it to feel more like a space that you could just relax in as well. So not two bathroom. I call it the unbathroom. So for example, I put a little armchair. I've got, a little wardrobe to put your bits and bobs in. And it's kind of, it's a nice place, a carpet down. I put the carpet here, and I think it's quite charming, and it's really kind of quite relaxing. It's a really, really lovely space to have a long bath and just relax. So this, I love, we found this at an antique shop. It's an antique perfumery cabinet, and I just think it is so special. The minute I saw it, I thought, I need this in my life. We haven't got room for it in the bathroom, so I put it in the hall just outside of the bathroom, and it's just the perfect space to put all of your perfume. It's quite unusual to see English ones. Often they're French, but this was an original English one with the original wobbly glass, and wherever I go, I will take it with me because it's just such an unusual one-off piece, and I love it. I really wanted to quickly show you a really special part of the house. This is my son's bedroom, and it's the original hall of the house. So it's got this incredible sweeping high ceiling, vaulted ceiling. Originally, the floor wouldn't have been here. It would have gone all the way down to the lounge, and people would have just had a fireplace on the ground and look all the way up to the top of the roof. The original crown post, which is unique to this type of house, a medieval hall house. And what just boggles my mind is that this huge oak beam would have been lifted with chains and manpower, because of course they didn't have any machinery when this house was built. So it just is an amazing testament to the strength and the skill of the people that built this house. So I've tried to keep it relatively minimal in my son's room. However, this is a tidy day. Most days there's Lego everywhere. But I've added a few bits that I just love. This trunk is so cool. Look, it's got all of the rosettes. It's from, it's a show box. So from a county show when they used to show the sheep, a local farm. It has all the dates where they competed, and they would have got these rosettes for showing their prize sheep. And the thing I love is that it came from this area, from the local. So I'd like to keep it in the area. I think it's a little bit of history, you know, to this part of England, which I just think is really sweet. Basically, there's a big mezzanine in this room, and the reason it's there is because back before there was heat and people just had a fireplace, with the hot air rising, it was much warmer to sleep higher up in the building. So people would have slept up there, and we did sort of think for a while it would be really cool to build a little balcony and have my son's bed up there. We never really got around to it, but it's just a kind of quirky feature, again, of this very ancient house. Home means to me, it's got to be family. I think it's, for me, the home is where everyone can come, get together, spend time together. We have the best Christmas here. Everyone comes. There's always stuff cooking in the oven. Everyone's got their glasses full, and it's fun, and there's music playing. And I think a home is nothing without having your family around you.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.